Good morning and welcome to the Morning Scoop for Sunday, September 26th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Rutgers game is in 6 days. The game against Michigan in 62 days. Last night, the Ohio State Buckeyes got off to a little bit of a slow start, but then hit the gas pedal and left Akron far behind in a 59-7 win. I'm joined, my guest this morning is Buckeye Scoop's Kevin Noon. Kevin, I guess let's start with the quarterbacks. To me, that seemed like about the best possible case scenario for Ryan Day, where the quarterbacks played well enough, both Kyle McCord and Jack Miller, for Ryan Day to probably feel like, okay, we'd be okay if they had to play, in the future, but not so well that there's probably like a real serious quarterback controversy brewing.
Exactly. They were able to play both of them with Kyle McCord. He saw 2+ quarters. Jack Miller saw the remainder. Each of them had high points. Each of them had some low points. Nobody just completely threw it out there to the point of where Ryan Day is going to have to make just this difficult decision next week if C.J. Stroud's shoulder allows him to be able to go. I think, though, that you do have the opportunity where you see these guys, you see that there's upside in each of them. Even though Kyle McCord kind of came out to a very slow start, they open. TreVeyon Henderson gets a first down on like an 11-yard run, incompletion. Technically a fumble in terms of with a backwards pass, another incompletion, not the best start. Ryan Day said after the game, I told him to breathe. You need to breathe a little bit here. They put him in some situations that were favorable with pop passes, things along that nature, those little push passes. And you sit there, and if you didn't watch the game and you look at the box score and you're like, oh, he had over 300 yards. I mean, he must have just been slinging it, but it's like in baseball, that seeing eye single also looks like a frozen rope.
Yeah, exactly. And, he started out slow, picked up, and did fine. He looked in command, in control of the game, it felt like. Was there a moment that you went, okay, he's got it now. He's in control. He can do this.
I really think that maybe it probably happened prior to it, but I think that on the touchdown pass to Jackson Smith and Jigba, I think that one where it wasn't a perfect throw, but it seemed like they were really on the same page. Jackson was able to body off his receiver. I mean, he was able to get there. It was we talk so much about back shoulder throws. This was a little bit more of a front shoulder throw. And once he hit that one, I was like, okay, that was a nice pass right there. We're seeing him make the passes that you expect an Ohio State quarterback under the current administration, the previous administration. Mm-hmm. Lord knows when I was a student here, I wasn't counting on any of those throws. Mm-hmm. But at that point, I was like, okay, he's got it.
And, he's a true freshman. First time in Ohio State history that you've had a true freshman start at quarterback, a true freshman start at running back. That freshman running back is TreVeyon Henderson. TreVeyon Henderson, man, I don't even have a question. TreVeyon Henderson, man, whoa.
Yeah, he's special. And I think that of the announced 95,000 people that were here, I'm going to call a little bit of shenanigans on that one, but I think they were disappointed they didn't get to see more of him. But I think you go into this game knowing that it's going to be if you're playing in this game, so you're not going to see somebody get an extended run. Mm-hmm. And if you do see somebody get an extended run, it's because you're not playing well as a team, and you have to have that extended run to get that separation. It was 7-all, I believe, at the end of the first quarter, and then they went nuts afterwards. I think that sounds right. It was. I know that it was like talking head, same as it ever was. I was watching David Byrne in the suit. People were freaking out on social. By halftime, everything was hunky-dory at that point. So we didn't get to see enough of TreVeyon Henderson, but we did get to see the flashes there, and he's special.
Yeah, and Ohio State had TreVeyon Henderson, 8 carries, Master Teague, 8 carries, Mayan Williams, 9 carries, Evan Pryor, 5 carries, and then Kyle McCord, 4, and Jack Miller, 1. I mean, it was very much spread the wealth. You saw everyone looked good. I think that people probably maybe have the biggest takeaway outside of Henderson with Evan Pryor. First time you got to see him, it was like, oh yeah, it looks as advertised. The receivers, Another real good day from Garrett Wilson, 4 catches, 124 yards. Jackson Smith and Jigba, 5 catches, 93 yards and a touchdown. Chris Olave, 2 catches, 12 yards, but a touchdown. So, and he had a respectable day.
Don't forget about Emeka Egbuka on his one long one. Yeah,
you're not going to believe who I was going to mention next.
Yeah,
one catch, 85 yards for Emeka Egbuka. It was like you can see, like, you've got the true freshman quarterback who looks like, okay, yeah, there's something there. You got the true freshman running back who's like, okay, there's definitely something there. And then Emeka Egbuka, it's like, oh, yes, the 5-star wide receiver. Ah, yes, everyone had forgotten about him.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, yeah, here I am.
Exactly. I mean, honestly, I thought he was going to get pulled down around the 50, maybe in plus territory around the 45. He takes it to inside the 5, makes several guys miss. I mean, just special. I mean, just the ball skills, just the offensive awareness. I mean, he sat there and he started on the Ohio State side of the field, and he ended up drifting over toward the Akron sideline. I mean, just really. He really deserved to be able to punch that one in at that point. Master Teague was able to pick up the small change at that point with a little short touchdown run, but, very special.
Yeah, and you had a catch for Marvin Harrison. I had a catch for Jaden Ballard. Like, you're seeing the freshmen kind of come along. And, I think I figured out the deal with this team, because there's some weird stuff with this team, right? And we're going to get to the Kayvon Pope thing in a minute, but there's some weird stuff with this team where it's just like some inconsistency and guys not playing at times when you expect them to play, and weird rotations and real deep rotations. And as you see a bunch of these freshmen continue to play, continue to, build more time, bigger roles on this team, I think there may be something to, there are a bunch of frustrated upperclassmen who feel like they've waited their turns, and now they're getting supplanted by this insanely talented freshman class.
Opportunity generally only knocks once, and sometimes for some of these guys, it doesn't knock at all. And you need to come out there and you have to grab that opportunity. And if you don't, I mean, they're going to recruit over you. And we talk about that all the time on the recruiting side of things. And recruiting's changed a lot even in the last couple years, to where you weren't amassing talent in the next class because you were afraid of alienating the guys who were a class above them who haven't signed yet. And now you certainly have a situation of where you've got a lot of young guys, and I'm sure we can go through a lot of them on this show or on future shows of guys that are, first-year players who are just blowing up right now. And sometimes it's Julian Fleming. He's been dealing with a hamstring, wasn't able to go today, but he was very supportive of his teammates out there. But you wonder what's going to happen there, because Emeka Egbuka is going to sit there and he's going to want his. Marvin Harrison's going to want his. Jaden Ballard, we don't talk about him as much as the other two. He's going to want his. Julian Fleming, 5-star guy, top 10, top 15 type of player nationally. He certainly has been snake bit by the injury bug, but he better, once he's healthy, he needs to sit there and be able to grab that opportunity, because these young guys aren't going to wait for him.
Yeah, you have to kind of seize the moment, because there's plenty of other guys on this team. You have been the most talented player on your team your entire life. You get to Ohio State and all of a sudden, there's like 10 of you. So which of them is going to, which of you is going to win the starting job? We talked about a bunch of the freshmen on offense. Man, Tyleik Williams on the defense. Holy smokes. Denzel Burke at this point is just like, I didn't even count him as a freshman anymore. Like, oh, he's just been starting the whole season. Like, he's a veteran now. Tyleik Williams, like, you didn't see much of him, and then you saw a little bit, and it was like, oh, that was intriguing. And then you saw a lot of him against Akron, and it's like, okay, it's still Akron, but like, man, that is real intriguing. Yeah,
I'll be curious to see what he looks like against Rutgers, going against a Big Ten line. And everybody wants to rail on the Scarlet Knights. They're this, they're that, they're not this, they're not that. Tyleik Williams is able to start doing that against Big Ten foes. Ohio State certainly has something there. And he was not a player that was as highly recruited as some of these other guys. And he plays a position that's not as highly talked about as like a rush-in type of guy. So to be doing that from the interior line, We had the opportunity after the game to talk to Haskell Garrett about him. Just this big smile comes on his face talking about Tyleik. Definite feel-good story there.
Yeah, and I mean, two other guys on that defensive line that we saw play a lot last night, Jack Sawyer, JT Tuimoloau. I mean, those are guys who, again, Tuimoloau got a start. Like, they started 4 true freshmen. Jerry Emig, the SID, said, as far as they can tell, that's a record. So, Kyle McCord, TreVeyon Henderson, JT Tuimoloau, Denzel Burke, true freshmen starting on an Ohio State team that is still a top 10 team, potentially a college football playoff team, at the very least a Big Ten championship contending team. 4 true freshmen. I mean, that's nuts. Now, the other side of freshmen playing and early guys, Steel Chambers, who just switched positions a couple months ago, is like now maybe one of the most effective linebackers. Ta-da! The downside of that is you've got the guys who have been waiting for their turn, who thought this was their turn, and now it turns out, now in fact, it was not your turn. Kayvon Pope. I was down on the north end of the field when that all happened. I was blissfully unaware of anything, and my phone started blowing up with texts like, what's going on with Kayvon Pope? So give us, I guess, the short version for people who may not be completely up to speed on what's the deal with Kayvon Pope.
Right, and it was in the first half, second quarter, I believe. There was a sub-package that was supposed to come in. Kayvon Pope tried to come on the field. Taraja Mitchell waved him off. Well, that apparently was the last straw for Kayvon Pope, who, as they say, freaked the blank out, and he was done at that point. And C.J. Barnett, who serves the old Ryan Stamper role, tried to console him as Pope was ready to go and tried to go to the locker room. And I think he was coaxed back, and then it just flared up again after he had words with Barnett and words with Al Washington, took off his gloves, threw them into the stands, took off his uniform, and was gone. And then I don't know if it happened while we were in the final seconds of the half or at halftime, we generally, unless your name's Tim Miles and you're part of the Nebraska basketball team, you don't tweet at halftime. And you don't, but Kayvon Pope did, so maybe he's not part of the Ohio State football team because he wishes teammates well. And then he had some less than complimentary words about Ohio State in a tweet that he deleted minutes after, but it certainly seems that there is a disconnect there, and he's probably portal bound.
Yeah, Ryan Day was asked specifically after the game, is he still a part of the team? Ryan Day basically said, like, what do you want from me, man? Like, I just came off the field. I was coaching a football game. I haven't seen the tweet. I just heard there was a tweet. So we'll get an update from Ryan Day later on. I do suspect all of the signs there point in the same direction, which is probably no longer going to be a member of the team. Is that you had Dallas Gant transferring earlier in the week. Now you have Kayvon Pope presumably likely leaving the team as well. That's 2 veteran linebackers in their 4th year leaving at the same time. Now, this is the 4th week of the season, so you've got the redshirt rule, and you don't want to burn a year of eligibility, yada, yada, yada. So, like, this week, guys leaving makes some sense. Do you read anything more into it than that, or is this just kind of like, I don't want to like try and paint a broad brush with, like, hey, massive cultural issues. I don't know that you necessarily can draw that conclusion based on this. Do you look at this as something that's more than just 2 guys were upset in similar situations, or is this just 2 guys were upset in similar situations?
I think can it be all of that? Because I think it's all of that. Because the linebacker room, certainly with the rotation, you're playing, you're not playing, we're going to play everybody, we're not going to, I think that there's some frustration because there hasn't been a clear picture what the substitution patterns are or whatnot. Now, that doesn't change the fact that Dallas Gant or Kayvon Pope are not disappointed because they got stuck behind Werner, Borland, Browning, Hilliard for multiple years. And it's just not common that you have a core that stays for as long as that 4-man rotation was there. So they certainly probably felt it was their time. So there certainly is a frustration on their own part as individuals. This is my time. I was told this is my time, even though nothing's given, everything's earned. But I think that you couple that with the issue that I really don't know what the blankety blank is going on in the linebacker room. I think that just makes it worse because there's no clear directive on that, and I don't know exactly where that comes from. I'm not trying to put it at anybody's feet. I'm just reporting what I'm seeing.
Yeah, and it just whatever you want to attribute it to, it doesn't look right. Everything. I mean, we've talked for a couple of weeks now. It just kind of feels off. We've been around in a bunch of Ohio State football teams. This one, and we've been around Ohio State football teams that have lost a game early in the season. Like, that is a thing that happens sometimes. It doesn't usually feel like this. It feels a little off, and and this could be on the Buckeye Weekly post-game instant reaction show, I compared it. It's like going through puberty. Like, you have the before, you have the after, but you have the kind of awkward in between. I wonder if this is just, you had the before Ohio State team, you have the after Ohio State team, which is probably a bunch of these young guys are playing. You're getting, all these young guys. I mean, we've talked about 6, 7 true freshmen, 8 true freshmen on this show, who are potentially going to be significant contributors, like, in a matter of weeks, potentially. What this team looks like in November when they're playing Michigan might be very different than what this team looked like tonight or last week or, week 1 at Minnesota. That could be a much better, much different and much better team by the end of the year. But you're going to have this like weird in between thing. And
adolescence.
This is very much just like, I'm growing and now I'm bumping into stuff. Like, what's going on? I don't understand it.
Yeah, I was going to say, I remember what I was like when I was a preteen, young teenager, and that was a mess. So, if we're going through that awkward headgear and Clearasil phase, so be it at this point. They're still a top 10 team, even though social media, nobody rails on Ohio State like Ohio State fans. And I read plenty of people who were saying this team belongs nowhere near the top 10. As of right now, as of the time you're watching this, they're still a top 10 team. A lot of teams struggled nationally this week. A lot of them escaped with wins, but I think you're right. I think by the time we get to late October into November, we're going to see, these pups will bite. These pups will bite by that point.
Yeah, and at this point, it's almost just a matter of, can they avoid a silly slip up between now and when the things kind of fall into place? Because you've used your freebie. So if you finish 11-1, you win the Big Ten, you're probably making the college football playoff because, Clemson's out. Like, Clemson's done, which means the ACC is pretty much done. So Oklahoma's looking real flawed. Yes. Texas has a loss. I mean, it's like you go through and it's like, you can say Ohio State's not a top 10 team. I don't know if based on the traditional definition of what a top 10 college football team looks like, how many top 10 college football teams are there this year? Because I feel like the answer is like somewhere between 2 and 6, maybe. It's not 10. So I think you're just going to have to make friends with the fact that this is kind of a weird college football season. And, at this point, it's just like you can sort of see the end product now. You can just sort of, you can see it on the horizon. Like, there is potentially a pretty good Ohio State football team down the road a ways, but you got a way to go to get there, and you just have to not lose before you get to that point.
Everybody wants chaos nationally, as long as not in my backyard, as long as it's not their chaos, but everybody wants chaos. Guess what? This year's probably going to be chaos. And Ohio State certainly has already dealt with some, whether it be the loss to Oregon, whether it be our pre-halftime entertainment of the Kayvon Pope reported incident, which a lot of us saw, so there's no real denying that something happened there. I mean, it's just going to be who can survive and adapt. Yep. And Ohio State certainly has the ability to adapt. There are going to be the issues, though, that they're still not there. Fortunately, Rutgers and Maryland are up next. Probably not as easy of layups as people would have thought earlier in the year. I still think Ohio State's going to probably be a pretty substantial road favorite in Piscataway. Ohio State, as long as Ohio State doesn't stub its toe at Rutgers, I think Ohio State will be a pretty substantial home favorite against Maryland. But Ohio State was also, a 14-point favorite against Oregon, so It happens.
It does happen. Yeah, this is suddenly turning into an NCAA tournament kind of season. Just survive in advance for Ohio State. You don't have to win pretty, but you have to keep winning. And because a lot of others, you are not the only high seed who is at the risk of getting knocked out at this point. There's a lot of other high seeds. Alabama barely survived against Florida last week. Georgia looked like not very good against a Clemson team that I think we're learning is not very good. I mean, those are the two that I think everyone's kind of going, definitely 1 and 2. It's like, well, maybe.
And then Oklahoma they have to kick a last-second field goal against West Virginia on Saturday. Just a lot of teams are just not getting it done at this point. I mean, Notre Dame, who I know is not necessary. I mean, wherever you have them, Notre Dame looked pretty flawed until they didn't against Wisconsin. I don't see any team to say, oh, they're far and away above everybody. And you can sit there with Alabama and say, well, Florida, that's a conference game. Florida was ranked in the top 15 at that point. So, give them a pass there. That's fine. I'm fine saying Alabama is a top 10 team. I'm willing to. I'll even say that they're a top 5 team. They're probably the top team, but they are not. There's not this gigantic chasm between them and everybody else. Don't look at them beating the living tar out of, who was it, Southern Miss? Don't look at them beating Southern Miss and be like, well, that's evident of this. Just like don't look at UGA just completely eviscerating Vanderbilt.
Yeah, that two-way conference game, and therefore a very important, very good win. So that's my big takeaway there on all of that. Some might say it just means more. I would not personally say that, but some might say that.
SEC.
Yeah, it is this is going to be a fascinating college football season, and it is going to be a fascinating Ohio State football season. And we've kind of laid out some of the things that I think we're seeing sort of starting to take shape. This feels like a team that's going to look very different 2 months from now than it does right now, and 2 months from now is when you really want your finished product to be there. This is a team that is definitely not peaking too early, that's for sure.
No.
So, but as the team takes shape, the best place to see the team take shape and to follow along and to have all the insight and analysis from our great team of insiders is at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have a fantastic team, loads of reporters, inside analysis, analysts. We'll have Mark Givler's 10 takeaways is already up on the board. Bill Green on Sunday morning will have his rewatch and his thoughts on the game as well. We'll have Ross Fulton, his X's and O's analysis. Kevin and Tony and I covering the team, covering the press conferences, all that stuff. Plus a whole bunch of more people. We don't even have time to get through everyone. We get also the recruiting guys and Alex and Mick and Dominique. I mean, we just have a incredibly deep bench, an incredibly deep team. It's all at BuckeyeScoop.com, so consider signing up today to become a member. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, hit the little bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are pushing 10,000 subscribers and might have hit it by the time you see this, depending on how quickly we're picking up people over Saturday night. But it is a fantastic resource for you, entirely free. We do pregame shows, postgame shows. We stream all our player and coach interviews live. We have all of our podcasts there. It's all at youtube.com/BuckeyeScoop. You hit the bell, you subscribe, and then you get notified every time we post a new podcast, every time we post a new video, every time we do a new live show. That way you don't need to keep refreshing. You'll just get a notification right on your phone. Hey, Buckeye Scoop just posted something cool and new. Click here and you can watch it, and it just makes your life a little easier and a little better. That'll do it for today. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you tomorrow.